In July 1969, humanity achieved something that had been dreamed about for centuries. We stepped onto another world. Almost immediately, people started looking closely at the photographs. They pointed out strange details, shadows that seemed to point in the wrong directions, and a flag that appeared to be waving despite the vacuum of space. These questions snowballed into a terrifying proposition. What if nobody left Earth? What if the greatest triumph of the century was filmed on a soundstage? To figure out how a theory this massive took hold, we have to look backward. We have to examine the extreme geopolitical climate that demanded an American victory, no matter the cost. Following World War II, the United States and the Soviet Union locked into a global struggle for dominance. They treated technological superiority as the ultimate measure of national power. The Soviets struck the first major blow in 1957. They launched Sputnik, the first artificial satellite, leaving the US scrambling. 4 years later, Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin orbited the Earth. America was officially losing the space race. President John F. Kennedy reacted by setting a seemingly impossible deadline. He mandated that America would land a man on the moon before the decade was out. The government placed the entire prestige of the nation on this single goal. This created an intense, high-stakes environment where failure was not an option, establishing a massive motive for the US to succeed, or at least appear to succeed at any cost. NASA had to invent entirely new fields of engineering from scratch, relying on computers that had less processing power than a modern calculator. The rushed timeline carried deadly consequences. In 1967, a fire broke out inside the Apollo 1 command module during a launch rehearsal, killing 3 astronauts. Instead of shutting the program down, the disaster forced NASA to implement obsessive safety protocols. Thousands of engineers and flight controllers coordinated every possible variable for the final Apollo 11 attempt. The path to the moon was a dangerous, brutal trial of complex engineering, paid for in human lives. Combine America's massive political motive with the sheer improbability of pulling off the mission, and the staged landing hypothesis begins to take shape. The theory claims that the US government realized they couldn't actually make it. Instead, they supposedly hired filmmakers to simulate the lunar landing on Earth, securing a victory over the Soviets without risking another fatal failure. Many skeptics specifically pointed to famous director Stanley Kubrick, accusing him of using his expertise in special effects to secretly create the broadcast footage. These accusations rarely stem from malice. They often come from a psychological block, the human brain struggling to process a leap in capability of this magnitude. But when we subject those visual anomalies to actual physics, the claims fall apart quickly. Fast shutter speeds for bright spacesuits cause dim background stars to vanish. Next, twisting the pole transfers kinetic energy directly into the fabric, causing ripples without air friction. Finally, jagged lunar topography scatters singular light into multiple intersecting shadow angles. Beyond the photographs, independent observatories around the world tracked the module's broadcast signals all the way to the lunar surface. Furthermore, the physical moon rocks brought back share no chemical signature with Earth materials. Every single pillar of the conspiracy theory crumbles under the weight of basic science. If the science so clearly debunks the conspiracy, why do millions of people still believe it today? The endurance of the myth has very little to do with photographic evidence anymore. It is rooted deeply in a modern distrust of massive institutions and government power. It is simply easier to accept that powerful people lied than to comprehend the monumental, almost alien leap required to leave our home planet. There is a deep irony here. The skepticism itself is a testament to the scale of the achievement. The Apollo 11 mission was executed so flawlessly and was so profoundly advanced for its time that for millions of people, the only logical explanation was that it had to be